Hello there. Is the Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk saying one thing about immigration in public, but then doing the exact opposite in reality? It seems that the Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk is saying one thing but doing another. A couple of days ago I published a video about the strong words the Polish Prime Minister was saying that his country must regain 100% control over who comes to Poland. And yesterday, writing in the Telegraph, James Crisp said that Donald Tusk had undergone quite the conversion since Brexit and had discovered his inner Nigel Farage. But whoa! In response to my video, one viewer sent me a link to a document that appears to put some screeching brakes onto that analysis. But first, a quick reminder to please like, subscribe and comment below. Now, the viewer's link took me to an article in Remix, rmx.news, which said, "The Polish government is setting up 49 foreigners' integration centres across the country, aimed at helping newly arrived migrants integrate into Polish society." 49 brand new centres, not some small-scale enterprise then. And the newcomers can use the services of the CICs until they submit an application for a long-term EU residence permit. Does this tally with Tusk's recent harsh words? Is that what's called 100% controlling your borders, continuing to let in as many as want to come, but then churn them through these new integration centres? The article continues with, "The centres, designed as one-stop shops, will provide standardised services, including language courses, legal assistance and psychological care, and will work with NGOs to cater to a large influx of immigration from outside the European Union under the left Liberal coalition government led by former Eurocrat Donald Tusk." A large influx of immigration from outside the European Union. I wonder what the average Pole will make of this, especially as Tusk is claiming he wants to stop Russia and Belarus channeling immigrants from the Middle East and Africa to the Polish border. And working with NGOs, you know, those bodies that tirelessly advocate for the destruction of national borders. Also bear in mind that the UN Global Compact for Migration is designed to put the onus on nations receiving migrants to do all they can to accept them and make them comfortable. And that compact envisages a huge increase in migration across the planet. With this comprehensive approach, we aim to facilitate safe, orderly and regular migration while reducing the incidence and negative impact of irregular migration through international cooperation and a combination of measures put forward in this global compact, it says. So-called irregular migration will therefore gradually disappear as migration becomes totally normalised. And with the term irregular migration being used to cover the concept of illegal migration, one assumes that there will eventually no longer be any illegal migration, because in the end everyone will be able to just up sticks and move where they want. And that movement of people will always tend, for the most part, to mean poorer people heading directly to the wealthier nations. Money will be the magnet, just like it is now, but on geopolitical steroids. And the reasons that justify this mass movement of people are such things as poverty, unemployment, climate change and disasters, inequality, corruption and poor governance, says the compact. This is not just about fleeing war or persecution, this is also about pure economic migration. And by including climate change in there, All it would take is the claim that climate change is affecting one area of the planet, and the developed world would have to step forward with plans to accept the people living there. And the UN wants to fast-track that process. And it seems to me that the Polish government will now be a part of that project without actually linking the setting up of these CICs with that UN compact. But the desired outcome for these CICs does seem to fall into line with that compact. So who's paying for these CICs in Poland? Well, here's an EU Commission statement on it. The centres are funded by the European Commission's Asylum, Migration and Integration Fund, but are also expected to seek other sources of funding, such as the European Social Fund, the government's Labour Fund, or local budgets. But as any Brexiteer worth their salt knows, there is no such thing as EU money. It all comes from the member state taxpayers. Now, from the figures I've seen, Poland is a net recipient of EU taxpayers' money flowing through the EU Commission. In fact, it receives the most money. So at least Poles won't be paying for their own cultural dismantling. And these CICs are responsible for delivering Polish language courses, information and advisory points, psychological care for children, support for legalisation of stay, legal assistance regarding employment and labour rights, adaptation and orientation courses, domestic violence prevention, human trafficking prevention, training for educational and public administration staff, management of a CIC website and social media accounts. And it all has to be standardised. It sounds to me like a blueprint for wider dissemination into the future. And it also sounds to me like the establishment has found a guinea pig government that will trial its rollout. Now, as an aside, remember that the UK government has just earmarked over £500 million for 2 migration centres in Kent, I think, over the next few years. So you do have to wonder if these are going to be set up along the same lines, don't you? And now we learn that the UK government, just like the last Tory one by the way, wants to increase the membership of the Permanent Security Council of the UN to reflect the global population, so weakening UK global power, and presumably strengthening the hold of the UN over us, helping the migration compact along as well, one supposes. Anyway, one of the items in that list of duties for these Polish CICs is domestic violence prevention. I wonder if that will also include the protection for young girls against cutting, if you get my drift. Now, it has been claimed that we do not have that nasty problem here in the civilised UK. But we do seem to need 25 clinics specialising in that field across England. Yes, 25. They're listed on the NHS website. Concentrated in places like London, Birmingham and Leeds. In fact, 16 of them are in London. And the first of these clinics was set up in 1997. And the first to specialise in children so affected was set up in 2014, only 10 years ago, both of them in London. But that doesn't mean we have a problem with that practice, does it? And the claim will be made that it's all nuanced and cultural, and that it only happens abroad, but our wonderful NHS has to pick up the emotional and physical pieces when they reach our shores. But someone I know who's looked into this says it does happen here. But even though it's illegal and the police have to be informed by NHS staff, no prosecutions seem to occur. Because, get this, we are in the education phase of eradicating the practice. But I'll put the cat among the pigeons right now and ask if it's actually us in the UK gradually being educated to accept and even facilitate this abhorrent, freshly introduced to the UK practice? I'll leave you to mull that one over. Anyway, I digress. It looks like Poland will be looking forward to reams more of this cultural enrichment thing, courtesy of EU-wide taxpayers' money and a compliant Donald Tusk government. Donald Tusk saying one thing, but doing another.